Hello, and welcome to the Culture of Wellness podcast, where we will be exploring the transformative power of self discovery and uncovering ways in which our mindsets and actions are shaping our overall well being. So, in each episode, we're going to be discussing the many layers of wellness, and we're going to have various speakers and experts that we're to talk about wellness and how we can develop a culture of wellness, not just within ourselves, but also in the world around us. So please join me as we go on this journey together and create and cultivate a culture of wellness. I am your host, Coach Racquel, and I am here to make sure that you have all the tools that you need to be the best version of you. So, in today's episode, we are going to be talking about a culture of wellness. What is it? I want to bring you into my world and even talk a little bit about why I started this and thought that this was so important. So, we're going to start with my why, and then I'm going to break down what a culture of wellness is, what it looks like, and how we can all be involved in making this world a better place for ourselves, for our families, and so that we're connecting one to another. And of course, bringing up more compassion so that we know how to support each other better in this world that we live in. So, when I think about why I started this Culture of Wellness podcast, first of all, it was such a blessing. It wasn't necessarily something that I was thinking of or something that I even thought that I would necessarily be doing right now at this point in my life. But I'm just so grateful for God and the way that He shows up and puts things at our lap to get ready and to remind us how prepared we are for the things that sometimes we don't necessarily feel like we are ready to do. And so this podcast is definitely one of those moments where it was like, all right, it's time, get out there, go do the work that I called you to do. And so the heart of this podcast is really about me sharing all the tools, the tips, all the things that I've learned along my journey that have helped me to become a better person, that helped me to be more authentic in myself, the things that have helped me to really stand in my truth, especially because I lived so much of my earlier years in a space of discomfort, a space of just, not feeling like I fit in or just trying to figure out what my purpose was. I spent so many years in that space and it felt dark. It felt alone. And so this podcast is really my way of being able to reach out to those of you who might share that feeling. Maybe you're not sure, what your purpose is here on earth. Maybe you're trying to figure out, you're in a transition in your career path. Maybe, there are some things in your body that you're trying to shift and change. All of those things can sometimes feel really heavy. And it can really cause us to feel like we're alone or, just feel misunderstood. And so the culture of wellness is just a safe space for people to be able to come and to find healing first for ourselves and then to allow that to ripple out into the world that we live in, whether it's the family, whether it's the work that you do, for those of you who are entrepreneurs, the businesses that you have, the neighborhoods, the communities that you all are over top of. This is just a way for you to get those tools that you need so that you can continue to do the work that you have been called to do. And so for me, as I think back, I remember when my middle son, I have three kids, by the way. I have three kids, and I remember when my middle son was probably about 2 years old. He's 15 now. But I remember like struggling. Didn't struggle as much with my first, but when I got to that second one, I was just struggling, trying to figure out how to fit into my life. Like it didn't look the way it used to. I always felt like there was some type of lack. And I come from a family of really strong women, women who had it together as when I looked at them. And then it felt like I didn't. I felt like I was struggling to manage myself as a mom, struggling to keep my house in order. And I remember I was in the grocery store one day and, just feeling really down. And this is how, again, good God is or spirit, whatever you refer to it as, but that energy or source that's greater than ourselves I remember standing there I was waiting to check out, and there was like the little circular that has the books on it. And so I'm sitting there, buying my time. I had my little groceries waiting for the lady in front of me. And there was this book on the shelf and it just like stuck out to me. And so I just picked it up, not thinking anything of it. And literally, I opened this book up, and right there on the chapter, it was like it just read me. All the confusion, all the things, my uncertainties, it was like that book was reading me. And I remember looking around wondering, like, is somebody watching me? Like, how do they know me? Like, how does this person understand me? And the book was really, it was called The Message Manual. And the chapter that I opened to was on women with ADHD. And at the time, again, I came from this family of really strong women who had immaculate homes. They had, looked to me from the outside like they had everything together. And here I was struggling in all of those areas, wondering why, like, I couldn't keep things organized, and I was having, a hard time balancing my work and my life. And as I was reading, this chapter, it was like, yeah, women who have ADHD often go undiagnosed because we're great students and our parents keep everything nice and organized. And so it's not until you get out on your own that you recognize that there's a problem, or that your things that you thought would come easy just don't. And so, I had spent so many years like shaming myself, and, years in depression, just trying to figure out. And some of it might even been attached to, having such young children. But I just remember it being so dark, and I just wanted support. And I just felt like nobody understood me. Nobody, it didn't matter how many times I tried to like explain it to my husband, or, even sometimes like some of the other people that I knew. They didn't get it because I didn't get it. I didn't understand what was going on with me at the time. And so when I opened that book, it was like a big light shining on me, like, hey, here's what's going on with you, right? I finally had something that I could pinpoint. There wasn't anything wrong with me, right? I wasn't a bad person. It wasn't that I didn't have the capacity. It just was, I thought differently. But no one ever told me that, right? And so it showed up as shame and guilt and frustration. And so I remember reading that. And as much as I'd love to say that was the end of my story, like, woo, you got it, it was a long journey for me of trying to figure that out, right? Do I take the medicine? Do I not? Who do I talk to? Who understands me? And I had an amazing village of people, but in myself, I just felt such shame that I didn't want to share out everything, right? On the outside, I always was smiling. Everything looked good. I looked like I had it together, right? I call that the Facebook effect. Don't we all do that? We put forth the best part of ourselves, but inside, like, so many people are going through so many things that we don't know. And there isn't always a safe space to go to talk about it, right? And so for me, it was just so freeing to be able to kind of have that knowledge. But then I had to figure out what to do with that. And it took me many years to really uncover, and I call it my path to peace, right? Of really finding out what it was that I needed, and being able to ask for help, and being able to, research and have the language to know, like, this is what you're looking up and this is what you're experiencing, and these are the groups of people out here that are doing that, or that have overcome that you can talk to. And so that is what this podcast is all about. It's about being able to have a space where people can come, be yourself, get some information. As we go throughout, the weeks, I'll have different experts coming in where we're going to be talking about all the many layers of wellness. Because most of the time when we think of wellness, people automatically think that we're talking specifically about losing weight. Like, when I remember when I used to tell people that I was a, health and wellness coach, that's the first thing everybody wanted to lose weight. Can you tell me how to lose weight? This, and that. But there's so many other things that are actually in wellness. It's about our physical body. That's only one part, right? What we eat, how to sleep, and all that stuff. But there's so many other layers that go into us taking care of ourselves and making sure that we're the best version of ourselves. And one of those things is the active process. So, like, even when I was doing a little bit of research about this and, just wanting to share, like, what is a culture of wellness, right? What does that look like? How do we even, define that? So I kind of broke down, all of the different areas of it. I wanted to kind of see, like, what exactly is it that we're talking about when we talk about a culture of wellness. And so one of the definitions that really stood out for me in terms of culture, there were actually two. Of course, it's our attitudes and behaviors, the way that we act, all of those kind of things. But in biology, it kind of means to maintain conditions suitable for growth. And even though I know they're not talking about us, but I feel like that's part of what we need to be doing. Like, how do we maintain or create conditions in our world that are suitable for our growth? Right? How do we create spaces where we can support each other and not step on each other? Right? We come from a culture where a lot of times it's competition, right? How can I be better? Or we're looking over to see what someone else is doing and then feeling bad because we're not quite there. And so, part of that culture of wellness is how do we create a condition for growth? That's what this show is about. Then the word of, because I broke it all the way down. I'm a researcher. I call myself a research queen all the time because I'm always looking something up. But of is to express the relationship between two things, right? So we're expressing the relationship between creating conditions of growth and then wellness. And so there's a couple different, there's a bunch of different definitions when it comes to wellness that are out there. But there were two that kind of spoke out to me. One was through the Global Wellness Institute. And they say it's an active pursuit of activities, choices, lifestyles that lead to a state of holistic health. A lot to say, right? But then the National Wellness Institute defined it as a conscious, directed um, decision, right? To, did I say that right? Yeah, so as a conscious decision to make these choices to be the best version of ourselves. So I ad-libbed it a little bit, but that conscious decision, right? It's either an active pursuit or a conscious decision of us figuring out how we can be the best version of ourselves. And then one of the other things that kind of popped up as I was doing a little bit of research was the idea of holistic, right? Wellness is a holistic way of viewing things. And that holistic came from the word holism, which is actually rooted, or it really talks about, it's a theory that talks about the connection between us. And it says that one organism, right, one part of the whole cannot be more important than the whole. So the best way to kind of think of that is like if you were thinking about your body, for example, right? We have arms, we have legs, we have a head. All of these parts are in and of themselves a whole, right? But they're not more important than the body system as a whole, right? We have all of this, and we can't really talk about an arm, like an arm by itself doesn't do anything without talking about the whole. And so it really made me think about humanity, right? Because that's really what a culture of wellness is about. It's about really elevating our humanity and making sure that we're putting that first. Um, and so when we think about, like, who we are and how we show up, our cultures, all those things, the fact that we are black or white, or we, identify as African American or Mexican, or the different religions that we attach to, or the environments that we come from, none of that is more important than us as a human race, right? Our humanity is what is most important. And so when we think about a culture of wellness, it's learning how to actively pursue, or that relationship between our beliefs, our attitudes, and how we connect with those around us, right? Other humans that we're dealing with. So when we think of it from a wellness aspect, remember those layers I talked about before, how do we figure out, one, who we are first, right? We have to always look at the lens within ourselves first. And then how is it that we're connecting with other people, right? How are we showing up? How are we interacting? How are we dealing with our emotions? How are our attitudes and our behaviors, right? Because we're getting to a space in life where we can no longer just, this is me, right? If I'm angry, then, everybody has to deal with that. But it's how do we start to grow within ourselves, right? How do we start to take care of ourselves? How do we make ourselves a priority in this busy world so that when we connect or encounter other people, we're not giving them the worst of us, right? We're not giving them the argument that we had at home, or we're mad or disappointed because something didn't go right that earlier that day, right? How do we learn how to reset ourselves so that we're in a place to really spread light, spread love, spread joy, and to be compassionate for other people as they're on their journey, right? As we grow, we are in a better position to hold space for other people, right? And that's definitely one of the things that I've learned along my journey. And, all the things that I've had to kind of encounter or deal with, or to grow within myself, I've learned that I have to deal with me first, and I get to be me first, right? I don't have to be something that someone else wants me to be. I don't have to pretend. And it's still a struggle. It's not, when we talk about wellness, it's not a destination. You don't just arrive there. It's something that happens over time. We build these tools, we put them in our tool bag, and we pull them out as we need them. Um, and we grow. And sometimes as we grow, we kind of see some of those same things resurfacing for ourselves, right? That thing that you thought you got over 10 years ago, but now you find yourself struggling with that same thing yet again, right? But that's part of the journey of wellness, right? We're learning, we're developing, and then we get to go back and share it with other people, right? That's our gift, our tools that we can share out for the world. So I like to think of it like as a rock rippling in a pond, right? As we learn and grow and toss ourselves out there into the world to do that and experience life, the more we ripple out to share those experiences with other people. So, this again is a safe space for people to come to get some of those tools, to learn how we can be our best selves, to learn how we can show up authentically, to learn how to kind of let our hair down a bit. Um, and to figure out, right, what are those hurt or ouchy areas in our lives that we need to maybe address, right? It's about a curiosity, a lens of kind of asking yourself, what do I need, right? What does this season of my life mean? What is it that the creator, source, God is trying to share with me or open? What doors are open and what doors need to be closed, right? And how do we deal with the disappointment of those things that we thought were coming our way, but not right now, right? You're not ready, or maybe that wasn't for you. Something better is coming. Um, and so that's what this is about: is really learning how do we deal with life when life is lifing, and we need to figure out, how to do that. We got to have some support, right? You need people on your side. You can't do it alone. This is not meant to be a solo mission. And so, this is just some ways for us to come together and to really learn how we can support each other. And I'm hoping, at the end, I'll be doing a Ask Coach Racquel segment. So if any of you have any questions, or, there's something that's kind of on your mind that you are wondering about, feel free to definitely, pop those questions in the chat wherever you are. And I'll be pulling some of those to kind of ask out and to share out with the group, right? Because sometimes those questions that we have aren't just for us. Somebody else was thinking the same thing. You were just brave enough to ask. So I'm excited, to be here with you all and to share the tools and the knowledge that I have. But I'm also going to be bringing in some experts, right? We want to talk to some other people who are in the wellness industry, who are doing things, who have learned some lessons, who have tools and resources that we can use. They're out there. That's one of my other big passions and goals in life, is to be a bridge, right? How do we bridge the resources with the people? We need things, and there's people out here that are providing them. So I'm going to be that resource for you to make sure that you're connecting with some of those other professionals as well as myself, who are out here providing support and helping people to grow. Um, so I am so excited. I know I said that already. But I am. I am. And I got to tell y'all, I was super nervous coming into this segment. And even though I've done podcasts before, I've talked in front of people all the time, I just was having a moment. And so, hopefully this is encouragement to someone else who's kind of feeling nervous. You know what? Sometimes we have to feel the fear and do it anyway. It doesn't have to be perfect. And we're going to talk about that a little later in our next segment, but we don't have to be perfect. Nobody said we had to be perfect. That is something that one of those myths that we've been told, because nobody is. Nobody has it all together. After having coached leaders for, years now, I used to be nervous about I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't coach somebody, the CEO of a company or, something like that. But listen, let me tell you, they are people too. And we all have struggles. Everybody's got a curtain, and there's some stuff going on behind that curtain that, people don't necessarily want to share out, but we're all dealing with some stuff. And I think sometimes we have to learn to be a little bit more vulnerable, especially leaders, when we're, if you have people that are under you, right? The more vulnerable you are, not to the point where you let people walk over you. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, it's okay to tell people that you don't know, or you don't have it all together. You don't have all the answers, right? Because it lets them off the hook of trying to be perfect, right? Because that's where that stress is coming from. And all that stress is wreaking havoc in our bodies. It's energy that we're putting in and not releasing. And we're going to learn some tips, some tools, some things that we can do to release that energy when it kind of gets caught in there. But that's where disease is coming from. That's where stress is coming from. People are, committing suicide and all these things, trying to be perfect, or trying to wonder why the world doesn't fit, or why they don't fit into the world. And so we've got to come back to a place where it is okay to be you. It is okay for you to show up as you. And how can I help you? What do you need today? Right? So I want you to think about that. And I want you to really let that sit in for the next week or so. Is, what do you need? Right? When you're having those moments, maybe you're upset about something, just ask yourself, what do I need? What do I need? What do I want? Right? Because sometimes it's that inner child in you that's wanting something. You know, um, when you were a little kid, you're like pulling on your mom's or your parents' shirt tails, like, hey, what is it that you need? Right? What do you need, hon? All right. Sometimes we have to talk to ourselves like that. What do you need? What's going on? We good? Is everything all right? And journaling is a great way to do that. I'll definitely give you that as a tip. And I know for me, I had gotten away from it for many years, but if you ever are really going through something, just take that pen. It's a great way to release that energy out, let it out. Even if you never read it, I have journals, a couple of them that I have never opened, but it was therapeutic being able to get it out on paper, and to just, sometimes I was cussing somebody out. Sometimes I was like crying. I could barely see, through the pages. There were times when, it was just joy, right? I just wanted to share with someone something amazing that happened. And there were times where I just had questions, right? Just not sure. So it was a way to brainstorm and kind of dump out some of my ideas. And it's always amazing how after you get done, there's either like a peace that comes over you, or it's a clarity. It's like, I didn't think about it that way. So, for today's tip, get you a journal. And even if you don't want to get a journal, for those of you who are techie, type it out on your phone, but just have some type of outlet that you can use to let go of some things, get some things out. Because again, everything is energy. And you're going to hear me say that a million times. Everything is energy, and it's either energy we're taking in, or it's energy that we need to release. And a lot of times our stress is because we're taking energy in, right? Somebody's bad attitude, our disappointments, our frustrations, our overwhelm because we got too many things that we put on our plate, right? And it comes in, but then we don't release it, right? And so that energy is in your body. And so it starts wreaking havoc on our organs, our body systems. I always say it's like the light switch, right? Stress is a light switch that we turn on. So those things that, maybe you were genetically, pre conditioned to have, and, you didn't have a problem with it before, but now you're all stressed. You got all this stuck energy in there. It's the light switch. Boop. Hello. Hey. Now you got to deal with, hypertension, or now you're dealing with something else, or now you're getting these headaches and not wondering why, or there's parts of your body that are hurting and you're not quite sure. All of that is part of those energies. So one of the ways to release that is through journaling. Write it down. Even if it's just on a piece of paper, you need to write it out, crumple it up, throw it away, burn it, all of those things. But it's just a way for you to get it out, release, wusa. Um, so I hope that was a really helpful tip for you today. If you don't have your journal, or you're not quite sure, you can get them anywhere. Dollar stores have it. You can get, if you have a special one you're looking for, some of us that like the pretty ones. If you're creative, you could decorate the front of your own, get a plain book, decorate it, whatever feels good for you. And again, technology works too. You can use your phone, the notes, whatever it is. You can use your computer to type it out, whatever feels good for you. But make sure that you're using some type of outlet to release that energy and get it out. So thank you again for joining me on the Culture of Wellness. I hope you will join me again for our next segment, where we're going to be talking about our roles and how sometimes we need to let go of those roles, that perfection. We're going to talk about that a little bit. And then, yeah. Also, I want to take a few moments to make sure that you are checking us out. Again, this is the Culture of Wellness Show, and you can find us on all social media platforms at Culture of Wellness. Of course, you can also check us out on the She Is Still Dope app or platform. Make sure you check that out, because there are a bunch of other amazing women just like myself who are providing different resources and tools and tips. So you don't want to miss out on that. And then, of course, if you are looking for somebody to come help you and your organization out, to provide, wellness retreats or support to help make sure that your staff aren't burning out, then I'm your girl. You can check me out at Urban Ed RX. That's URBANEDRX.com. And also on all social media platforms as well. So Urban Ed RX on all platforms. If you're looking for the show, check us out at the Culture of Wellness or the She Is Still Dope platform. And one last thing before we get done is our question for the day. So our Ask Coach Racquel. I totally forgot to share that out with you. But again, if you have any burning questions, remember, you can check me out. You can also email me or just post it in the chat if you just have an open question. But if it's something that you feel is a little bit more private, then shoot me an email at hello@urbanedrx.com to ask your question. And I will try to post it out here to share out or at least respond to that question. So the question for today is, how do I find ways to incorporate wellness into a busy schedule? So the question is, how do I find ways to incorporate wellness into my busy schedule? So that is a great question. I think many of us struggle with that, especially busy professionals, because life happens. It is hard sometimes, to really put yourself at the top of your to-do list. So one of the ways to really do that is to schedule it out, just like you schedule doctor's appointments and all of those other things. Figure out what's that one thing that you're really trying to accomplish. And here's the key. Don't try to do 20 things, because that's what we all do, right? It's like, all right, I'm going to lose weight. And then we want to put the whole thing together. And while that works for some people, most of us need baby steps. So you're going to first identify what is the goal that you're trying to achieve, All right. So whatever that is, you're going to identify that, and then you're going to break that down into small steps. So what is something that I can do in this next day, right? That's going to get me going. What's something I can do in the next week? What's something that I can do in the next month, right? So for example, I'll just use the losing weight one just because that popped into my head just now. But if somebody was trying to lose weight, right, we're not just going to throw you out into the gym or have you running a 10K today, right? We got to build up to that. So maybe the first part or the first thing that you're going to do is to pick a day, right? Maybe you're going to check your calendar and you're going to look on there and figure out what day of the week is going to be the best for you to have whatever the time frame is that you want. Is it 10 minutes? Is it 20 minutes? Is it 30 minutes, right? You choose. But make sure you pick something that feels doable to you. Don't go hard and you're going to do 2 hours in the gym and you just started. Let's not do all that to ourselves, right? Because that's an easy route for you to be stuck and done. You'll be over it in like 2 days. After that first 2 hours, you'll be checking out and you'll be on to something else. So something a lot easier. What's an easier lift? Is it easy for you to say, I'm going to go turn on a workout video and I'm going to dance for 10 minutes, once or twice this week, right? So you want to have small wins, because the more that you have those small wins, then you can build up, right? So now that I see myself doing these 2 workouts, right, or dance parties that I've scheduled for myself this week, now I'm excited because, all right, now what's going to happen next week, right? What are we going to do? We're going to do, and you check in with yourself each week, right? Next week, what's my goal going to be? Am I going to do 2 days again, right? So that I can build up the habit. Am I going to extend my time just a little bit? So maybe I keep the same 2 days, but instead of doing 10 minutes, I'm now doing 20, right? And here's a really important fact. There's so much research that has been done that actually shows that just walking, y'all, for 10 minutes actually adds years onto your life. So the same benefits that people are getting from being in the gym for 60, minutes, 2 hours, all that kind of stuff, people are getting those same benefits from just walking for 10 minutes a day, right? So that's just you going out after you had dinner and just walk 10 minutes, right? You can start with 5 and build up. But there's just so much that we can do just by doing something small and giving yourself a win so that you can move on to the next step, right? So don't jump ahead. Don't try to do a hurdle, right? Jump over the puddle, just baby steps, right? Lao Tzu said, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, a baby step, right? And the more that we baby step, the more we realize that one day we look up and we're there, right? So small thing. If you're trying to create a space to add wellness into your life, whatever that is. And we're going to talk about some of those areas of wellness next week, so make sure you join me. But whatever it is, just do it small. Start off small. You don't have to overachieve unless that's just you. If you work that way, right? My husband's like that. He could literally just go cold turkey and be all in one day. You have some people who were able to quit smoking and one day they just decided, right? But that may work in one area of your life and not another. So if something's not working, just try it, break it down, smaller steps. So I hope that's helpful to you. And again, I will see you next time on the Culture of Wellness. Thanks again. And I can't wait to see you. Make sure that as you go out into this world that you shine your light bright so that others can find their way in their darkness. Until next time.